The West Asian War is now in its third week, with strikes that killed Iran's supreme leader. Neither side is in the mood to negotiate. The combined attacks from the US and Israel did massive damage to the Iranian military. Iran, too, inflicted significant damage on the US and Israel, mainly targeting their overseas bases and tankers. Crude is spiking, with predictions of $200 per barrel if it drags on. There is no doubt that the US has achieved tactical successes. However, Iran is still fighting, even though the volume of Iranian attacks is shrinking, but they are still active. The US wanted regime change. That didn't happen. Now, many US analysts think the ultimate goal for Iran was to raise costs for the US without resolution, and we can see how effective Iran has been on that front too. But the biggest strategic play Iran has used was to effectively block or heavily disrupt the Strait of Hormuz, through which 20% of global oil passes. This hits US consumers hard, and most importantly hurts US allies the most.
The war with Iran is now entering its 13th day, with all sides escalating military operations. Israeli and American forces continued striking targets across Iran Thursday.
Iran knows it cannot win a direct war, so the regime's goal is to raise the stakes, to make sure the whole world is feeling the pain. Enter commercial ships. These are the crucial cogs that keep our economy afloat.
Trump released strategic reserves and begged allies for naval help, but few are joining. Analysts call this a nightmare scenario for global markets, potentially triggering a recession if disruptions last weeks or months. Many see it as a classic forever war trap, with Iran raising the price daily, while the US struggles to define winning. If it drags further without de-escalation, these concerns will only grow louder. Now many in the US want this war to stop, one that was never theirs to start. They are asking the tough question: how do they even get out of this? One such expert suggested that the US must find an intermediary, someone who's not part of the problem, and that someone is India. Now you might think this is good. If India can mediate, it would not only be a good thing for India, but also for the world, and India's image would dramatically get boosted. But here's what I think: this is a classic trap, mainly because the origin of these suggestions is fishy. One of them is McGregor, a retired US Army colonel, frequent Trump-aligned commentator, and critic of endless US wars, but still speaking from an American strategic viewpoint. The second one is Hussein Hassan Mirza, the UAE's first ambassador to India. No equivalent call has come from Iranian officials, Iranian state media, or even pro-Iran voices in the region, suggesting India lead mediation. This one-sided push makes it smell like a trap for India. It's an exit strategy for the US side, not a genuine invitation from both. Iran hasn't signaled willingness to let India broker anything meaningful. If India jumps in publicly or even privately, it risks being used as a face-saving prop for the US to claim that the US tried diplomacy via India while continuing military pressure. And even if India tries that, Iran might politely take a call, but Tehran could demand India condemn Israel and US strikes. Once India is the chosen intermediary, both sides will try to pull it onto that tightrope India has been walking for years and has effectively succeeded in doing so. The US could link future defense deals or tech transfers to helpful mediation. Iran could threaten Chabahar cooperation or diaspora safety. China and Pakistan will paint India as a US proxy. Suddenly, India's prized strategic autonomy looks compromised, exactly what critics say has already started happening with closer US-Israel alignment. One could argue that Iran is already suspicious of India due to Modi's visit to Israel days before the war. But let me tell you, that's how India operates for decades. India has good relations with almost all countries in the world. This is called strategic autonomy. The US hates this, but still engages with India in many sectors. Russia accepts this wholeheartedly. Some Western countries are beginning to follow this too, for example France. And if Iran is worried about India's relations, then Iran never asked India to dock its warships in Indian ports. India granted humanitarian docking permission to Iranian naval vessels, right as the war escalated. India provided shelter to the crew in naval facilities, and Iran later arranged transport to repatriate sailors from the docked ship. In return, Iran has largely blocked or heavily restricted the strait, causing massive disruptions, but 2 Indian-flagged LPG gas tankers successfully passed through the strait after direct talks between India and Iran. Even Chinese ships carrying Iranian oil are getting through. Iran's ambassador to India confirmed Tehran allowed some ships, as a rare exception to the blockade.
Iran has always been a supplier of India. India never accepted the sanctions against Iran. So it is something that has not changed significantly over the years. So India cannot be really accused of profiting from the situation at the moment.
Jaishankar described it as the result of reason and coordinate diplomacy, no blanket arrangement, but ongoing negotiations. He emphasized it's based on existing bilateral ties. Even the U.S. Energy Secretary acknowledged India's diplomatic breakthrough here. Iran likely sees these docking plus quiet diplomacy as proof India isn't fully aligned with Washington, so it granted the exceptions to keep New Delhi friendly and ensure continued economic links. Now on the U.S. side, here's what I think is happening. Trump is publicly begging allies like Japan, Australia, South Korea, UK, even China, to send warships for a Hormuz coalition, to escort tankers and force the strait open. But no one has plans to send ships. This contrast is brutal and public, highlighting U.S. isolation. The U.S. Navy itself isn't escorting commercial tankers through the strait right now, so why would other allies risk theirs for the U.S.? This lets me think, but also realize, will they actually pivot away from the U.S.? Not a full 180 degrees, but yes, accelerated multi-alignment is very likely. The China threat still ties them tightly to the U.S. alliance system. Nobody is ditching that. But the Hormuz crisis is teaching them that blind loyalty to Washington costs real money at the pump, while pragmatic neutrality, like India's, can literally keep the gas flowing. If the war drags another few weeks and Indian tankers keep sailing while everyone else's sit idle, this lesson will only get louder. India isn't just protecting its own energy, it's quietly proving that multi-alignment works better than alliance loyalty in an Iran crisis. And US allies in Asia are watching very closely.